Nintendo is being kinda sneaky with this cheap way to buy Tears of the Kingdom directly from them. You can save some money, more so than other places, but it's gonna require you to make some sacrifices. And I do think Nintendo is doing this, not just to get people to buy Tears of the Kingdom, but also to push a certain direction that the industry may be headed in. And that's what we're talking about today.
Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and today we are talking about how Nintendo is being a little sneaky about this cheap way to get Tears of the Kingdom. But before we jump into things, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th. It's just a few days away, we're a few hundred subs away, we might make it. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if for whatever reason we've already passed the goal, join anyway, because we're going to continue to be making videos on Nintendo for the foreseeable future. So some of you may have already gathered from the thumbnail that what I'm referring to are the Nintendo Vouchers. The Nintendo Vouchers allow you to get 2 different Nintendo games on their Nintendo Voucher list, and the cost of it is $100. That's more than a typical game that is $60 here in the States, but if you're going to get 2 different Nintendo games, it can save you $20. 2 full-price $60 games. Yeah, that makes sense. You can save some money there if you're willing to get the games digitally. But Tears of the Kingdom is $70. So by getting the Nintendo Vouchers for $100, and Nintendo's marking this on their eShop page, you can save $30 because 60 plus 70 is $130. The Nintendo Vouchers are $100 and Tears of the Kingdom is a part of the Nintendo Vouchers list. And this is the sneaky thing that Nintendo is doing. You can save $30 in this way, the caveats being you have to be planning on getting more than just Tears of the Kingdom for the foreseeable future, and also, you have to get the game digitally. You won't be able to save money getting the physical version. And I think this is intentional. Nintendo is supporting this way for us to save some money, and I appreciate that, and that's actually the decision I ultimately made, but I think what it's doing is that it's pushing people more in the direction of getting games digital. And I think this is what Nintendo wants. It benefits a company for us to get things digitally. Why? Because 1, it's cheaper for them to just release the download code or allow us to download it straight from the eShop, as opposed to producing a physical plastic case with all the art and also the cartridge. That costs them money. And also, the way we usually get these games is from a distributor, the middleman, Best Buy, Walmart, GameStop. So us just downloading the game digitally from the eShop saves Nintendo money, or any company that we download games from their respective digital stores. So it totally benefits Nintendo here. And there's this fear amongst many that as we push forward into the future and more people buy digital games, and eventually companies become more comfortable with the idea of maybe creating a digital-only console, this will phase out physical games. And if this were to happen, the fear here is that you will no longer technically own your games. You will not be able to have full control on them. So kind of how, like, for example, you can go back to your Super Nintendo or your Nintendo 64, these multi-decade-old systems. You can make the game still work and run on those systems just fine. If your game is only available digitally, in theory, you can lose access to it. I think there's some truth here, but at the same time, if your game's already downloaded on your system, you can play it. You don't have to connect online to play all these games. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, you can play these games as long as they're loaded onto your system. So I think if your worry is not being able to play the game a decade or 2 down the road with this initial purchase, you should be able to, assuming your system still works. But what happens if the system deteriorates? Is there any way to recover this? Can you transfer the game to another system? You can't. And that is a limitation. There is a loss of value in that way by going only digital. The advantages though, well, the game's loaded onto your system. You don't have to bother with having to switch out cartridges. You don't have to bother with having to go out there to buy the game out in the public. And those are some of the reasons why I went with this deal. One, saving $30 means something to me. Sure, I'm gonna do that. But then also, I want to play this game as soon as possible, legally, because I am not going to get the game illegally like a lot of people have. That's just something I'm personally doing, not judging or anything like that. And I want to play the game as early as possible, so getting it at midnight in my region, since I have downloaded onto my system, that makes sense for me. I also get to avoid having to deal with a midnight release that's not available across the board everywhere, so I was having some trouble even finding events like that. But even if I were to do that, I have to drive over there, I have to wait in line, I have to deal with people, I have to get back out. By the time I get home, it's probably not going to be midnight anymore. It's probably going to be an hour or two later. And I have to go to sleep relatively early because I have things to do the day afterwards. So downloading the game so I can play it for an hour or two before I go to sleep, that makes sense to me. Saving $30, that makes sense to me. Having the convenience of it all being in one place, not having to change out cartridges, that benefits me in some way. Is there somewhat of a concern that I won't have this cartridge, that I won't be able to sell in the future, that I won't be able to move on to another system if my system breaks down? There's some of that. Now, if your system were to break down now with cloud saves and all, and your Nintendo account, you will be able to transfer things over in today's age. The argument is that, say, 10, 15, 20 years from now, when Nintendo's no longer supporting the system, will you still be able to do that? And the answer is probably no. But who knows? Nintendo may be pushing their Nintendo accounts for the future. We've seen signs that they're working on some level of cross-platform connection. So I think that the Nintendo accounts are here to stay for a while, at least with the next system. So perhaps a lot of your downloads, say for example Tears of the Kingdom, will probably be able to transfer over to the next system. And if you keep transferring things over generation to generation, your digital copies may last, but there's no guarantee of that. So I understand the fear here. And that's how Nintendo's being sneaky about this. There's a lot of people who do not want to move in this direction, but by helping us save $30, having the convenience of having it on our system immediately, as soon as it's available, it's getting a lot of people to buy into that, including myself. What do I think this suggests for the future? Well, there are systems out there already that are digital only. Could Nintendo in the future just do digital only as well? I'm not saying this is going to happen for the next system, but making moves like this is pushing us in that direction, little by little. I think eventually this is what's going to happen. And it's going to be a little unfortunate, because I do like having the Nintendo memorabilia. I like having something to look at, to reminisce upon. That is something to be appreciated. Is it a major big deal for me? It's not a major big deal for me, but it is something I appreciate. So maybe they could double down on their investment into amiibos and collectors sets of some sort. Maybe even if it doesn't have a physical copy of the game, maybe it comes with the download code, but there is still like a big statue or an art book or a soundtrack or pins, different things that we like to get with our collector's editions. Maybe they really double down on that. So we have a lot more of these cool collector's items for the different game releases, so we have something to remember and appreciate about these games down the road. But they'll still be moving in the direction of digital. I know people don't like that, but that's just kind of the direction it seems like we're headed in. But again, there are conveniences to having only digital, so I'll be playing Tears of the Kingdom at midnight come this Thursday, which would technically be Friday, but you know what I mean. Anyways, everyone, those are my thoughts on this situation. If you didn't know about a way to save $30 when you get Tears of the Kingdom, now you know. But that's all for now. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.